Be sure to subscribe to WXOU Sports on YouTube. WXOU Sports is the place to be for all things sports from your favorite college radio station. WXOU Sports features live audio broadcasts of all Oakland University home games, including men's and women's basketball. They also feature interviews with athletes and coaches, with highlights and more. Just go to YouTube and search WXOU Sports and hit subscribe. Now, back to the show. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the GioMoShow, your home for all Oakland University Golden Grizzlies sports. My name is Giovanni Moceri, and be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the GioMoShow, as we're, I think, pretty much past halfway through the Horizon League season. We're on the back half, on the way, hopefully, up as we get into the Horizon League tournament, so be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a bit of the Golden Grizzlies basketball action. And don't forget to follow the GioMoShow on Instagram at the GioMoShow, and to follow me on Twitter as well. GioMoSherry WXOU is where you can find me on Twitter, and you can use the hashtag the GioMoShow to stay involved with the show, as we got a lot of basketball to talk about. But it's also the week before the Super Bowl, so a couple of shout-outs before we get into the show. Keep an eye out, Jake's Takes, hosted by Jake Masucci, current manager on the Golden Grizzlies men's basketball squad. I'll be on his podcast, Jake's Takes, previewing the Super Bowl, as we have done for the past 3 seasons now. So it's kind of weird where the first time we did it, it was Eagles-Chiefs, and now the third time we're doing it, it's also Eagles-Chiefs. So I love talking football with him. He's a great sports guy to get to know. Him and his podcast, they cover more of the professional sides of stuff, whereas the GioMoShow, we stay a little more focused on the college, Oakland side of things. But be sure to keep an eye out for that before the Super Bowl, as me and Jake will chop it up and see how this Super Bowl will go down, at least from our crystal ball. And also, keep an eye out for my conversation with Griffin Beers, as he'll be our guest for the game reviews this week. And we may have a little bit of extra coverage, GioMoShow bonus coverage of women's basketball, and we'll get into why that may be later on in the show. So keep an eye out for all that stuff. Subscribe to Jake's Takes, rate, review, and subscribe to him. Leave a 5-star and a funny review for Jake, as well as subscribe right here on YouTube. Don't miss this show, my conversation with Griffin, and the mystery bonus content that we'll have coming up this week. And last shout out, February 12th, the Wednesday away game for men's basketball is there at IU Indy. I will be back at Old Grizzlies Bar and Bistro doing the live show. The live stream last week went really well. I was very surprised. I was very happy to see that you guys engage really well with it. The clip from it is one of my top viewed videos, as well as the Kampe suspension surprise coverage. Those things got a lot of views, and I really appreciate you guys supporting that. So there will be more to come when it comes to the live stream watch parties from O Grizzlies. Next time, February 12th at 6:30 is when we'll be going back live right here on the GioMoShow. So intros aside, let's get into the action. We'll start with men's basketball, as a split of the 2 home games this week, kind of leaving a bad taste in our mouth, but not quite the same way as the previous week was with the away loss at Robert Morris. This one has a bit of a different flavor to it, but ultimately the same result, splitting the last 2 weeks for Oakland men's basketball. So we'll start with Thursday's game against Green Bay. This one, if you guys remember, last week, this is the first game in 25 years and the second time in school history out of the 41 years Kampe has been here that he has not been on the court for the Golden Grizzlies. Forced to stay home and just most likely rip his hair out, at least for the first half of action. But it was so strange to not see him on the court. Taking those duties as the standing head coach was Jeff Smith, as part of the job of being the associate head coach. And I'll be honest, and let me say this, I love Coach Smitty. I love talking to him. He is a brilliant mind. I can listen to him talk ball for hours. But I was not happy with the first half of the game. It was awful. The first half of Oakland against Green Bay. Green Bay, remember, is the worst team in the league. They do not have a conference win yet. And maybe, some of it probably due to a lot of injuries to their star players. But still, they're 0-12, 0-13 coming into the arena. And they're able to out effort Oakland and, be a little bit sharper than Oakland in the first half in the arena, I was pissed. I did not think Smitty was up to the challenge. From my perspective, it didn't look like it. I wrote down in my notes as I was watching the game, I wrote down, I'm glad Kampe is in good health because it does not look good under Smitty's first half. And I say all of that to say that things got fixed in the second half. But with that first half, it was sloppy. There was 9 turnovers in that first half. All kinds of fouls, confusion on offense, missing assignments on defense, and a random unforced shot clock violation. Jalen Jones was holding the ball for too long, and it was like, what is going on? Oakland now in a case where they have 5 home games and 4 away games as their last stretch in the Horizon League. They need to win the home games. They especially need to win the home games against the worst team in the league. So, I was spiraling at halftime where it was tied 29-29. I think it was 29-29. But it was tied at halftime. And as frustrated as I was, as concerned as I was not doom and gloom just yet. I had a feeling that when you get into the locker room after that, there's going to be a little bit of are you kidding me? We're at home. It's against freaking Green Bay. Do you know anything about basketball? I would imagine is the halftime conversation. And luckily, things got back to normal. We were back on planet Earth in the second half. Oakland started off that second half with 2 dunks by Alan Mukeba, and Oakland will go on a 17-3 run to jump up into a double-digit lead and just ride it the rest of the way through. Now, Alan Mukeba did foul out with about 4.5 minutes left to go, but it was luckily in a game where we were okay with that being the case. It didn't cost us. We were still comfortable lead. A 14-point win is what Oakland would come out of this one. 68-54, a win against the Green Bay Phoenix, and a great post-game conversation. Once again, I can listen to Smitty talk for hours. It's not that I don't like listening to Kampe. That's not what I mean. But I have a specific appreciation for the way that Smitty speaks, the way he talks to, me on the GioMoShow, to the media, in whatever capacity. The way, the specificity with the way he talks, there's no ums, there's no ahs. It's just very straight, refined. Like, I admire that kind of speaking. That's not easy to do, especially with something as complicated as your basketball team, as the coach. So great post-game press conference. I got to ask Baru about what it's like when Allen fouls out, because he was just talking about last week how they feed off of each other, and he got a great response from that. It was good vibes. I liked how Smitty at the end of the television broadcast, he was saying, "We need the fans back here on Saturday. Camp's back." Like, I thought that was so cool. He does so well with the media, and ultimately, without Kampe, it couldn't have come at a better time when you're at home against the worst team in the league, and we're able to get away with it. And what was funny is that, so I'll go over the box score a little bit, but in the Northern Kentucky game, I was very concerned when I saw Kampe yelling at the refs against Northern Kentucky. And I'm like, wait, Camp, don't push it here, but I got a feeling he knows his boundaries. So Oakland comes away with a win over the Green Bay Phoenix. Your box score highlights: DQ Cole was the top scorer for the Golden Grizzlies. 18 points. He was 5 of 8 from the floor and 6 for 6 from the free throw line. And not bad from 3 either. Starting to find a groove a little bit. 2 of 5 from deep. 7 rebounds, 3 assists, a block and a steal as well for DQ. Great game for him. Mukeba, again, this is fouling out after 4.5 minutes. 16 points, 8 of 14 from the floor, and 8 rebounds. I thought he fouled out in this one. No, there it is, personal fouls. He had 4 turnovers. I was looking at the turnover instead of the personal fouls. But yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff happens in the first half. A total of 11 turnovers, so they were able to switch it from 9 in the first half to just 2 turnovers in the second half, starting to clean things up. So 16-8 is good for Mukeba, and Baru 10-13 for another double-double this season, an assist and 2 blocks in addition to that. And from the 3-point line, it wasn't, next game, it'll be much improved, but not bad for Oakland, about average 27%, but you got the right guy shooting at a decent clip. Like I said, DQ was 2 of 5. Malcolm Christie was 2 of 5, for DQ. 3 of 9 for Christie. 2 of 4 from Nassim Mashour, as well as 1 of 3 from Cooper Craggs. I mean, like, you got your guys that are shooting these threes. They're not doing too bad at it, especially in this game. Now, Green Bay, I think, ended up shooting a little bit better, but again, we were 28%. Like, that's not hard to be better than. But I also want to point out Isaiah Jones, 0 points in this game. He was 0 of 8 from the floor, 0 of 4 from 3, but 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. It's just, that's what he does. I love listening to Isaiah when it comes to the media stuff because he knows his role. It is not the role where he is the center of the offensive attention. He doesn't get plays, but as we've seen throughout the season, in a lot of times in this game in particular, he's usually where the ball is when it comes to the rebounding. Him or Baru, Mokeba, like they're usually around the ball when, unfortunately, we miss one of our shots. One of our many missed shots this season. But he knows his role and he's happy about it, and that's good to see. It's nice when once in a while you get an athlete who is content and happy with his position. That doesn't include being the leading scorer. It's a refresher for that kind of stuff, especially with all the NBA madness going on. It's nice to find some kind of like peace in the college world of basketball. And I'm really starting to I was already there to begin with, but I am now much more on the college basketball side versus the NBA side of things. That is for another episode. Maybe we'll finish out this episode with that, but expect that rant to come shortly. So overall, Oakland, big win against the Phoenix. Great performances by the players we need, and that led us to a win. Now, to follow it up, on Saturday, they host the Northern Kentucky Norse, a team that was previously top 4 in the league before a fast descent down to the 8th place in the league, but still with the same talent that made them top 4. So it's not something to where you can really look at the standings for this game. And I want to point this out first. So this for Saturday. This also includes the women's basketball game that was on Saturday for that arena doubleheader. I found it hilarious, and I've pointed it out many times because I thought it was hilarious. It was a blackout for the Detroit Mercy game for women's basketball Saturday at 1 o'clock. And then it must have been some kind of scheduling mistake or something, but you have the blackout at 1 p.m., and then they have a Star Wars Day whiteout at the 4 p.m. game. Oops. So I kept teasing about that. Bring a change of clothes when you go to the doubleheader that day. So this men's game was the whiteout part of things. It was the Star Wars Day. But either way, this game was it was weird. It's not a game that we've seen at least a lot this season where Oakland played well, or especially it's a game that we haven't seen in conference. I mean, I'm saying this and I realize this applies to the non-conference, but Oakland played well, but just the other team played better. That's usually not how these games go. If we lose, it's usually because it's on us, because our offense stinks. But unfortunately, recently, it's the defense that's been not holding up their end of the bargain. Going back to last Saturday's game against Robert Morris, the last minute, the defense did not put the stops in place to stop Robert Morris from eventually winning that game as well. I mean, the fouling thing as well. And now this Saturday, it is also the defense that did not hold up their end of the bargain. But instead of at the last bit of the game, it's extended throughout the entire game. So this one's a little bit of a different flavor of loss in conference for Oakland this season. You see how I specified it on its way down? So for this one, I'll paint the picture for you guys. Northern Kentucky, like I said, one of the top 4 teams in the league previously, and then unfortunately dropped down and are fighting for their lives in the league. They're coming off of a loss to Detroit Mercy in Callahan Hall as part of their trip to Michigan. They stopped at Detroit, and then on their way a little bit farther up, they hit Oakland. They came off of a tough loss. I think they scored in the 50s against Detroit Mercy. And they're kind of fighting for their lives here when it comes to their standings at the end of the season. And they had a lot of guys step up in this game. Like, straight up, they had players step up. Their offense was crisp, as well as their defense. Just all in all, Northern Kentucky played like a top 4 team in the arena. We got them in their place, and now they got us back in our place, where they scored 84 points against Oakland's defense. That doesn't happen, especially in conference. I mean, it would happen in a non-conference on the road, but in conference at home, teams do not score in the 80s against us. So that was shocking, especially from 3. So I'll kind of go over the numbers here that Northern Kentucky had. They were 46% from the field, but with 61 shot attempts. That was 10 more than what Oakland got. So not only did they shoot pretty well, but they had lots of more opportunities to do so. But from 3 is really where they shined. They were 12 of 32, good for 37.5% from deep, and they made 16 of 20 free throws, good for 80%. So they shot pretty well in this game. And this was a stat that was pointed out in the broadcast, where they had 28 field goals and 22 of them were off assists. So that's a sign of a good clicking offense for Northern Kentucky. And in addition to that, 9 steals was like a testament to the defensive side of things. Despite the fact Oakland scored 75, so final score 84-75, Northern Kentucky win. Usually when Oakland scores 75, they should win, but they usually don't give up 84 in that same game. That was the case today, where there were multiple, I think at least 2 times where Oakland was held scoreless for 5 minutes. I think once in the first half and once in the second half. It was bizarre to see. I mean, like, our offense does that sometimes, but 5 minutes? And meanwhile, Northern Kentucky was taking advantage of it, like double-digit runs, 14-0 run in the first half. I think Oakland, they got up to 9 points, and then it just froze while Northern Kentucky was shooting the lights out and getting their lead. So all in all, Northern Kentucky played a really good game. But my only real concern in this game, and usually, like, I'll give you guys a background. I didn't grow up with basketball, and a lot of the intricate strategies of it I try to stay out of when it comes to my analysis. I'm learning the sport. I'm learning the media side of the sport, but this one is what confuses me when it came to the way Kampe ran the game. It's that there were a lot of times where we were scoreless and Northern Kentucky was lights out. Like I mentioned, a 14-0 run earlier in the game. But for whatever reason, I don't know why Kampe would not call a timeout in the middle of those runs. When it gets to 9-0 run and your offense isn't doing anything and you can't do the inside-out kind of offense you're trying to, because Northern Kentucky was putting a stop to that, forcing us to just kind of chuck up threes. So while that was happening, while Northern Kentucky was on a 14-0 run, I don't know why we weren't going to call a timeout to regroup and at least get us out of the drought. We're drowning, pause to get us some fresh air. So, I don't know why there wasn't any timeouts called in that sense. Was it because he was trying to get his players rest? And I know he likes to play with the media timeout in that sense, get his players a couple extra minutes of rest. But, you're at home and you're drowning. Don't you want to put a stop to the game? So it's stuff like that in this game that I was a little bit weirded out. I don't know why they were forcing our players to sweat it out. I don't know why we were sweating it out when we don't have the offense to necessarily counter back against a 14-0 run, especially when they're shooting the way that they are. Now, Oakland didn't shoot so bad themselves. They shot a very good game. Also 45 from the floor. We were 11 of 25 from 3. That's good for 44%. We never shoot that. So, I mean, the chucking up threes thing, we ended up kind of getting away with it. We were 18 of 20 from the free throw line. So things were going well, but it's just call a timeout. That's something I need an explanation of. So maybe you basketball guys in the comments can help me out with that. But I didn't get that part. So I will give credit to Northern Kentucky. I'll give a lot of credit to Northern Kentucky. Backs against the wall, and you had a lot of guys step up to be able to stay alive in the conference. They played a great game on the road, hostile environment, etc. Props to them for doing that, especially where they had some of their players. I think I don't even know how to say his name. Gerezger, I think. Number 0. He shot. I think he scores like 3 points a game, and shoots like 17% from 3. And he was 22 points and 4 of 7 from 3. So like it was stuff like that from Northern Kentucky that really elevated them in this game. So unfortunately, that's a loss for Oakland. We'll get your Oakland box scores. Baru in this one. 5 turnovers was the first thing I want to highlight because they were especially attacking him when he was forced to handle the ball. Like they knew it's not his specialty, and they went at him and got turnovers out of him. So he had 5 turnovers, but also 18 points, was 6 of 7 from the free throw line to help him get to that 18, but only a couple of rebounds and 2 steals in this game. DQ continued to shoot well from 3. This game a lot better, 5 of 9 from deep, good for 15 points, along with 5 points and 5 rebounds, 5 rebounds and 5 assists. So DQ had a great game. He's 5 of 10 from the floor. That's a great game from DQ. And Mukeba, 14 points, 8 rebounds, 4-4 from the line. Had a couple of assists and a block as well. But it's just we couldn't match what Northern Kentucky was doing straight up. And now that's kind of putting us in up a creek without a paddle when it comes to the standings here. The standings will go over here. Not many changes in the Horizon League standings. Oakland staying at 6th place, where they were knocked down after their loss to Robert Morris. Or I believe they were in 5th. Right after that game. But either way, last week when we spoke, it was Oakland at 6th place. They remained there this week, and only a couple of switching places. Purdue Fort Wayne and Milwaukee switching at the 2 and 3 spot. Now Purdue Fort Wayne is 2nd in the league. Milwaukee is 3rd. And then in the lower half, Detroit Mercy, with their win against Northern Kentucky, helped them go up to the 9th place, swapping with IU Indy. So now it is Detroit Mercy at the 9th and IU Indy at the 10th place spot. You still got Cleveland State riding high at the top spot, 11-1 in conference. I think that number 1 spot is locked up pretty much because Purdue Fort Wayne's next. They are 9-4, and they're going to be battling with Milwaukee for the rest of the season for that number 2 spot. But I guess if you don't get the regular season championship, then any spot in the top 4 will suffice because you still get the bye in the home game to start the tournament. But either way, it's pretty much Cleveland State locking up number 1. It'll be Fort Wayne and Milwaukee. And Robert Morris is getting up there too. Robert Morris, 8-5 in the league. They're just half a game behind Milwaukee, standing at 4th place. Like that top 4, you get Youngstown State involved in that as well from the 5 spot. There's that kind of established top half of the league here. Oakland is really on the blurred line of that top half, bottom half of the league. And it's going to take a lot for us to kick back up. And it might take a couple of teams to lose games they shouldn't for us to be able to launch back into that one, as we're currently 7-6 in league play. We do have a home game coming up, because we got more home games for this latter part of the season, but losing one of them sucks. Luckily, one of those road games is, like I mentioned at the top of the video, at the top of the podcast, their next road game is IU Indy. So you can maybe make up for that home loss with the road win, but you need road wins anyway to get to the targeted 13 wins to get to that top 4. So that's the situation for Oakland. I had one friend of mine text me. He said it would not be an Oakland season without us making it difficult on ourselves, and that's proven to be the case once again this season. So your upcoming games for the Golden Grizzlies, they'll be at home next Thursday, February 6th against Youngstown State, and then they will be on the road February 12th against IU Indy. Remember, I'll be at O Grizzlies, and I'll have the live stream watch party for you guys right here on the GioMoShow YouTube channel. Tip-off for that game is at 6:30. That's Wednesday, February 12th, so keep an eye out on that. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss it. And next week, we'll come back with men's basketball. We'll see how they do against the Penguins and the Jaguars. But we still have women's basketball to cover here, so we'll go straight into it, as luckily they only have the one game to cover. And this one was a really big game, and I'll illustrate kind of the standings at this point. So Oakland and Detroit Mercy are kind of with the top three of the Horizon League for women's basketball. That one is pretty much locked up. So it's really a battle for the fourth place spot, and Detroit Mercy and Oakland were right there, are going to be fighting for that fourth place spot. Last week, Detroit Mercy was 6-5 at the fourth spot, and Oakland was 5-6 at the fifth spot. So despite Oakland starting 4-0, slipping to 5-6, they still have a chance at a top four spot. Detroit Mercy is a team that is in the way of that. And also, Detroit Mercy earlier this season was able to beat Oakland and take Maddy Skorupski out of the game, at least until the fourth quarter, where it was kind of some garbage time points. So this rematch in the arena, like this is, like, especially the women's season. Like, I know the men's side of things, I mean, both sides, honestly. Men's and women's basketball, when it comes to the Metro Series, they've been pretty dominant towards Oakland's side. But it's cool to see. I mean, the women's side has been much more competitive than that of the men's side. But still, this season, like, we're getting some pretty good battles between both of these teams. This game, and judging by the previous one as well, have proven to be that great rivalry that we enjoy seeing. This game was no different. This game was a lot of fun to watch, honestly. And it was cool that it was on TV 20 Detroit as well. So not just ESPN Plus, but they got it on the local station as well. I always appreciate that stuff when you have games in the local market that are just available on public TV. I only wish that our baseball, basketball, hockey team would be able to do that, because we're in the local market, and if only there was an easy way to watch Red Wings, Pistons, and Tigers. Something to consider for later. But it was cool to see it on local TV. So I'll give you now the way this game went. That's the setup. Here's the punchline, if you will. So this game remember last game, Skorupski didn't do much. This game, Skorupski did a historic number, especially for this season. Oakland, including Skorupski, but Oakland, this game started off on fire in the first quarter. They would go up 25-12 after the first 10 minutes of play. Everything was working for Oakland. They were able to get everything they wanted out of that Detroit team. However, the game was still to be a battle. The second quarter comes around to Detroit Mercy. They really make a dent in that lead, so much so that it's getting into a single possession game in the final minutes of the first half. But some great plays by Oakland were able to force turnovers on Detroit Mercy, give them back the ball, and they were able to stay afloat with their lead and make it so that at halftime, Oakland is up 36-32. Two-possession game, but I feel like that really swung the momentum back in Oakland's favor at the right time. The last minute of that second quarter, despite the efforts Detroit Mercy had in trying to counterpunch from the first quarter, Oakland was still able to hold on to the grip of the lead. In the third quarter, Oakland would then quickly build another double-digit lead and pretty much cruise to a victory off of that. Third quarter, they just took control back of the game. Now, Detroit Mercy in the fourth quarter, they played a lot better. They outscored Oakland in the fourth quarter, but the lead was just far too far for Detroit Mercy to effectively come back. So Oakland would cruise to the 77-63 victory over the Detroit Titans, and evening out the series in the season and jumping them up to the fourth place spot, replacing the Detroit Titans. So this one was huge for Oakland. Now they're up in the top four once again, and now they got a little bit of fresh air breathed back into the season. So box score highlights here. I do want to point out, because remember, Elia McQueen, she was 21-17 in the last game. she still played well in this one, but not the same way, where Aliyah McQueen had 19 points. Come on, come back to me. 19 points and 7 rebounds and 2 assists. That's still a good game. 3 of 10 from 3, not bad either, but just not able to be as effective as she was in last game. And Emila O'Brien, 14 points, 5 rebounds as well. But Oakland just blew them out of the water, forcing 27 turnovers on Detroit Mercy. 27. And it's something that, off the top of my head, I'm remembering in last year's matchup, or even the year before, where Detroit Mercy, they kept coughing up the ball in the arena. So I don't know if it's something to do with the with the way things are when they play at Oakland, but 27 turnovers for Detroit. Meanwhile, we go to the Oakland side, and Skorupski scores a league high. Despite what Purdue Fort Wayne's doing, despite what Cleveland State and Green Bay at the top of the league, what they always do with their star players, it is Skorupski that gets the season high score with 38 points. She had 21 at halftime. 38 points is what she finished with. 12 of 19 from the field. Efficient. 2 of 4 from 3. 12 of 14 from the free throw line. 4 assists, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals. A monster game from Skorupski, a total flamethrower for the Golden Grizzlies. In addition, you have Leona Baxter efficiently 6 of 9 from the floor for 13 points, 4 rebounds included, and you had Macy Smith, 12 points. Unfortunately, did not make a three-pointer, but was 5 of 16 from the field with 5 rebounds and 4 assists and 4 steals herself. Total of 18 steals for Oakland in this game. In that first quarter, they were able to gain that big lead by shooting 69% from the floor. Did not make a 3 out of the 2 attempts, but just scoring every basket is what it felt like to get them that 25-12 lead. And then they were able to protect it in the second before cruising in the third and fourth. So, like I mentioned before, just because I have it in my notes, I feel like I have to read it. But in the game summary on GoldenGrizzlies.com, it says Maddy Skorupski's 39 points are the most by any Horizon League player this season. Despite what all those top 3 teams are doing, Skorupski still one of the deadliest scorers in the Horizon League. Is she still? I gotta check if she is still top 3 in scoring, or if she made her way up to the top 2. I want to see that. Skorupski has now jumped up to the number 2 scorer in the lead, only behind Michaela Purdue of Cleveland State. 17.6 points per game is what Maddy Skorupski will give you night in and night out. In addition to that, she is not among the field goal percentage leaders. No, she is. She is number 5. Excuse me. Not only is she a top 2 scorer, but she is a top 5 in efficiency. 43% from the floor is what you get from Skorupski. So just wanted to make sure I get an update on the Horizon League standings. Skorupski's amazing, man. She is so smooth with it. And I recall it was one of the earlier games where I think it was like a school day. It was a Friday afternoon game earlier in the season. I happened to sit next to the Skorupski family. Her brother is cool. Like that's a cool family. They're all coming to support, and her previously from Michigan State, but stays in state to go to Oakland and be one of the best players in the Horizon League. It's a cool story that she's got. Obviously, we're very happy to have her here with Oakland. The top 4 Oakland Golden Grizzlies jumping up to that 4th place spot. And here's where I kind of pump the brakes. As cool as this game was, here comes the toughest challenge you can get in a single week in the Horizon League. We played this similar schedule at home earlier in the season, at the top of the new year. But we are now on the road this coming week at Purdue Fort Wayne, Thursday, February 6th, and at Cleveland State, Saturday, February 8th. That is the number 1 and number 3 team in one weekend on the road. So, last time this happened, Oakland was able to split it. They beat Cleveland State, but they got curb stomped by Purdue Fort Wayne. Can Oakland at least split the tough, probably in this season in particular, the toughest road trip in the league? That's what's going to be required if they want to hold on to that top 4 spot, because Detroit Mercy, they're a half game behind, and the season series is split. So considering tiebreakers, so Oakland's going to have to be fighting the Titans the rest of the season if they want to hold on to that top 4 spot. You have to at least split this. That's a tough task. It was a tough task to ask at home, and we were still able to do it. So tough road trip coming up. We got to see if Oakland's really made of top 4 stuff. So some final shout-outs before we wrap up the show here. Track and field competing at the Jets Pizza Invitational in Saginaw Valley, as well as the Mayo Invitational held at Notre Dame. Highlight from that one is Michael Hancock setting a new school record in the 1 mile in the Jets Pizza Invitational at Saginaw Valley. So congratulations to Mr. Hancock on the school record for the 1 mile. And you know what? Let me look at what that time was, because I always like to reference it to my civilian mile time. I think in middle school I got 6:30 in the mile. And what was his time? Oh my. So I said my civilian 1 mile was about 6:30. His is 4:04. Oh my God. That is superhuman. That's superhuman. Just I Division I athletes, man, they're insane. They're insane. You can't play. I can't even imagine, after graduation and stuff, let's say we play a game of soccer or something where there's a lot of cardio to it. It won't even be close. I think that's endurance that you can spread throughout the rest of your lifetime and still be an excellent runner. 4:04 is crazy. And the school record is now Michael Hancock. So congratulations to him, as well as the other great performances set by the Golden Grizzlies at both the Saginaw and in South Bend. And one last shout out, one we don't give often here on the GioMoShow, but the tennis team, the women's tennis team, getting back-to-back road wins at Northwood and at Eastern Michigan this past weekend. So congratulations to the women's tennis team as well, making the Golden Grizzlies proud. And that will wrap it up for us on the GioMoShow. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on all platforms, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts for more weekly coverage of the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. Keep an eye out for this week in my conversation with Griffin Beers regarding these past 2 games for men's basketball and the bonus coverage we're looking to have as regards to women's basketball. Next week, we'll see how the Golden Grizzlies respond to their backs being against the wall, much like Northern Kentucky's was, and we'll see how Oakland does in the 2 road games, the toughest matchups that they can get in the Horizon League. We'll cover all of that in next week's episode of the GioMoShow. My name is Giovanni Moceri, and we'll see you soon.